our journey to the ghost town of Bodie, Sarah and I checked out half the town and its vanquished ruins. We'll finish out our tour and talk about some of those who lived here and who are buried up high on the hill.
A couple of stores together. As you can tell, they're quite old. Bodie Hotel. Meals at all hours. There's a couple of steamer trunks down there as well. Here's the building next to it. Like a pool table in there. Old pot-belly stove to keep this place warm. Place to eat. The bar in the corner. Always get a sense of eeriness when I'm here, and like whole generations of people who were here, their buildings are still here, but they're gone. This was actually Bonanza Street. The site of Bonanza Street was conveniently located behind Main Street saloons, which were over there. Bodie's red light district was also known as the Maiden Lane and Virgin Alley. Yeah, right, virgins. Beautiful Doll, Rosa May, Emma Goldstein, Nellie Monroe, French Joe, and other ladies of the evening lived and worked here in a row of mostly one-room cabins called cribs. You can see crumbling buildings with a brick foundation to the north. This was the Mistretti Liquor Warehouse. It was named for Antoni Mistretti, a native of Switzerland who also owned a saloon and bakery in Bodie. He also served as constable in 1880. Look how short the doors are. There's a safe and lock right there. You can see this side of it is collapsing. Well, it has collapsed, I should say. This is the liquor warehouse right here.
The bucket's missing its bottom.
Deep well shaft right here. Crazy. Would you like to dig that by hand?
No, thank you.
So way back in the day, let's say that it was snowy and cold as heck out here. Your house is over there. And you have to come all the way over here to go to the bathroom.
This one had a porch on it. Like every other cabin around here.
Careful.
Electrical service was here. I think this is where we did see the deer.
No.
As we came around this, and there he was.
No, it's not. Well, it would have been right here in this corner, but I don't think this is it.
And windows in the back here. The metal on that roof. For such thin walls, I bet they were miserable for winter living up here. Very little insulation as well.
You know those jugs, they're super thick. Not clear glass, but what is that? Ceramic or whatever? You know, like you do a jug band. Just found the whole bottom of it out in the field. This is the Kirkwood stable and blacksmith shop.
Can you imagine all the horses and buggies and wagons stopping here for hay and being stored, and blacksmithing? That road goes to Aurora.
That road that we should have took to Aurora.
Yeah. We're gonna come over here and show you the jail. It's not much of a jail.
This is where we were told that an inmate in here was taken out and brought across town and hung.
Yeah, so from 1878 to 1881, this was a jail, and Constable John Kurgan was here. There was a famous 1881 incident which resulted in Kurgan's temporary demotion when vigilantes took accused murderer Joseph DeRoche from the jail and hanged him.
It was reported that during a ball at the Miners' Union Hall on Saturday, January 15th, 1881, that Joseph DeRoche danced with the wife of a Cornish miner by the name of Thomas Trailower after he asked her not to do so. It's believed that the two may have got into some kind of heated match, and DeRoche left the event with his wife beforehand. At the corner of Main and Low Streets, DeRoche jumped from the darkness and shot Trey Lower in the head. DeRoche was immediately arrested, but was handed over to Deputy Farnsworth, who was drunk at the time. He managed to escape and was caught about 8 miles away. He was pulled from the jail and hung by the 601 Vigilante Committee on January 24th, 1881, on the same location where Trey Lower was shot. The 601 Committee got its name because they were in favor of putting people 6 feet underground with 0 trials and 1 rope, thus 601. Peering through this window was the legendary John Wayne, who visited Bodie around 1970 for the shooting of a TV special, Swing Out, Sweetland.
Sheriff, how come you got me locked up in this stud jail?
Because last night you got yourself in a fight, sent 14 men to the hospital.
What was the fight about?
About whether we need a larger hospital.
1881 jail.
Pocket full of money and a tummy full of grub, but there ain't no hole in the wash tub.
Oh.
Bonus points if you could say where that's from. Do you know?
I do. Let's check around the back of it. Kind of double walled here. Here's a jail cell. That's pretty cool. Try to take a peek inside there. It doesn't show a lot. Oh.
This would have made more sense to be the jail. Look at the walls on this. No getting out. Big sturdy metal door.
I can't imagine what it's like to be dragged out of your jail cell by a bunch of vigilantes that want to kill you, and then knowing that they're going to hang you at the other end of the town, probably the lawman doing nothing about it. This is the site of the Bodie Bank. All that remains of Bodie Bank after the 1932 fire is the brick vault. James Kane bought the bank, founded by E.L. Benedict in 1890. James Stewart Kane was a pioneer banker and mining man, born in 1854. Despite its wild reputation, this bank in Bodie was never robbed. A nighttime burglary, though, on September 1st, 1916, yielded $2,000 in cash, some bullion, and other valuables. This was the vault. Imagine this surrounded by a bank building, ornate ironwork. It's too heavy to move, so here it is. There's the actual safe in there. Manufactured by Hall's Safe and Lock Company of Cincinnati and San Francisco. The patent was 1867. A lot of people wanted to get in there. Look like this brass has been polished quite a bit by hands. Here's another of those bay windows. This is the Murphy house. Murphys were a prominent family here in town. This is the Reddy house. One-armed attorney Patrick Reddy lived here. He was known for defending miners and laborers of the Eastern Sierra. He had an Irish brogue that complemented his courtroom arguments. He lived in this house with Emily, his wife, and he maintained offices in both Bodie and San Francisco. It was a long 40-hour commute between San Francisco and Bodie by stage. He also became a member of the state legislature. This building needs a little help to being held up. So this is one of 2 morgues that Bodie had. This may have been brought over here in 1888 after the fire destroyed the Bodie House Hotel on this corner. They say that there's caskets still in here. Yep, there's a casket in there. Oh. Never understood why they had holes cut out where the face is. You found an old jalopy for me. Looks like a Model A.
There were a couple of these fenders way out there too.
I think that's a Model A or a Model T.
It's crazy that they use wood in the framing. What is this stuff?
Pieces of it. That is a cool old jalopy.
Old.
That's where your license plate frame went, right there. Whoever owned that died a long time ago.
It's too bad they left it to ruin.
This is the Donnelly house. Town butcher Charlie Donnelly and his wife Annie Pagden, an English artist, originally lived here. There's still hops growing on the porch. It's an employee residence up there.
This must be a sawmill.
It is a sawmill.
You see these old, what do you call that? Like those rollers where you can move stuff along?
Yeah.
See the ginormous blades on these things? How about this one?
Definitely could tell it's a sawmill.
Mop bucket.
A mop bucket. Water container.
Why is there a muffler sticking out of that building?
Aha.
Oh, I was gonna say that kind of looked like that one piece that.
Could have been. Let's go out around front and see what it is.
I think so. Gas station.
This is probably your last time here, huh?
Likely. I've visited pretty much every building here, not on this trip, but I hit every place that I didn't hit last time. This time.
You done, huh?
I'm done.
Plus, there's definitely a lot of walking that's involved here, so no restaurants.
No drinking fountain.
Well, you have to bring your own drinks. If you come here, make sure you bring an ice chest and lunch because there's nothing here to buy. Except the store does have some souvenirs that you can buy. Okay, on the way to the cemetery is this boiler. Look at that, the Prescott Scott Builders boiler, San Francisco, 1878. I'm going to go up here to the cemetery and highlight a couple of graves, including the Angel of Bodie. There's a story that this little girl was enamored by this one miner, and she followed him around, and apparently his pickaxe or something slipped out of his hands and struck the little girl in the head, and it killed her. She's up here. Her grave is probably the most popular grave that's visited. So here's the famous Angel of Bodie. Her name was Evelyn, beloved daughter of Fanny and Albert Myers, born May 1st, 1894. She died April 5th, 1897. This fence around her grave is relatively new. It wasn't here last time because Sarah was here and we got a picture of her kneeling around this grave. The face of that angel.
This is the final resting place of Annie Folk, who lived from 1859 to 1896. She came to Denmark, to Bodie, at age 23 to visit her sister, and she fell in love with a man named Richard Folk, and they married and had 2 beautiful daughters. However, she died with the 3rd childbirth. And here's the grave of James B. Perry. He was a native of Ireland. He died in 1896. He was 63, a late supervisor in Mono County. His French wife, Palema, was the one who owned the restaurant that accidentally started the fire of 1892 and burned down over 60 buildings. She actually lived until 1925. and is buried in Oakland. It's a pretty interesting chiseling on his grave marker. He was a Mason, as there's an eye up there over the FLT chain, which stands for Friendship, Love, and Truth. You wouldn't be able to gather the cause of death for Anthony Thuman by looking at his 1883 marker. In fact, records show that he fell down a mine shaft at the Standard Mine. He was only 25 years old. Rosa May, or Rosa Elizabeth White, was one of the most notable women of the night. She was born in 1855 to Irish immigrants. She ran away from her home in Pennsylvania in 1871 and was forced to turn to prostitution. She originally ended up in Virginia City in 1873 and worked in brothels throughout the Carson City, Reno, and Virginia City area. She came to Bodie in about 1893, eventually buying a home in the red light district of Bodie for $175. There persists a story that she cared for miners who had been afflicted by some kind of epidemic in 1911, but there is no confirmation of any such epidemic. She actually has 2 markers here in Bodie. There's a marker for her in the cemetery of Outcast, however, records don't record any burial, and she might have moved on to a different area. Missing plates on the zinc marker for Mrs. Pagden comes with an interesting story. It's been said that the marker's plates were removed to hide bottles of liquor during Prohibition, and yet eventually they were stolen and no longer available. The story behind Alexander Nixon's early death in 1878 has a fascinating story behind it. The 31-year-old native of Ireland was drinking in a saloon here and got into an argument with friend Tom MacDonald about who was going to pay for the drinks. The argument escalated to a gun battle in which Nixon lost. Lottie Joel, who was a prostitute before she became married to an Eli Joel, died on November 7, 1899, it said, because a prescription she had ordered was incorrectly filled. Because of her checkered past, there was a flap in Bodie as to where she should be buried. A lot of people did not want her buried with the respectable town folks, but she went out. She and her husband actually owned several saloons in Bodie. There's some really cool equipment right behind the restroom buildings, pieces of equipment from the Red Cloud mine southeast of Bodie, including this large wheel. This is the head frame, also known as the gallows frame, that stood over the vertical mine shafts. Those cages lowered men downward to haul out the ore and the waste rock. So what we have here is the Oddfellows Hall on the right, and the Deschambault Hotel on the left, which also served as the Bodie post office. The first floor of the Oddfellows Hall was actually used as a undertaking business. Kind of creepy looking drapes there rotting on the window. Actually looks like something out of a Halloween haunted house. This is the inside of the Deschambault Hotel. I'm going to give you a good inside look here of the bar that's inside the building. So this is the Miners' Union Hall, built in 1878, and I just have to point out this right here, the stepping stone here. It reads 1862 Wide West Mining Company. Been there a long time. John Wayne stepped on this stone, and that 1970 TV special that I told you about earlier. So in front of the Deschambault Hotel and the Oddfellows Hall here in Bodie, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of History Hunters. We ask that you subscribe to our channel, give us a like and a comment. Let us know what you liked about this trip to Bodie, maybe what you didn't like about it. We'd always appreciate the feedback. Thank you so much.